Okay, I'm going to do a video on how I do my fruit fly culture media. Just because I was browsing through YouTube and I found some really weird shit on how people are doing this, making it way more complicated than it is. I keep hundreds of frogs, and this is a mix I've been using for 10 years. I've tried different mixes. Some work better than this, but for convenience and the smell's a big one. I prefer Josh's frogs, but it makes my house smell like a dead animal. But just for convenience, and this is so cheap and easy. Instant mashed potato flakes. Now this recipe is pretty interchangeable, so we'll call it, I'll say everything in parts. So it's 4 parts potato flakes. So you can put 4 cups, 4 tablespoons, just 4 of whatever you want. And it's going to be a do as I say, not as I do, because I'm half in the recipe because I got a big ass cup that I'm using to measure it. Next thing you need, dry milk. This will be 2 parts. So if you're doing cups, 2 cups, tablespoons, 2 tablespoons. Pretty self-explanatory. One part sugar. If it looked confusing how I'm doing it, it's because I have the recipe, so I know I'll have to say that a couple times for some of you. Then the last thing you need is some cinnamon. Now, it depends on how much you're making, how much cinnamon you use. I use probably about 1/4 cup there. If you're making it with tablespoons, like half a teaspoon, I'll show you after you have it shake it up, the color. You just don't want it too brown. The cinnamon is just mainly there to prevent mold. And then this is the part. Like I see people add spirulina and all kinds of weird shit into it here. That's about the color you want. But the biggest thing that you're going to have problems with, and if you crash a culture, it's going to be because it got taken over by mold. So don't add weird shit to it. That's all you need. Right there. It works great. After you've finished with that, well, I'll make another video and show. Oh, fuck it, we'll do it now. Okay, I'll show you how I make them. To make them, you'll need vinegar, red Solar cups. Yeah, not 32-ounce delis. You have to make twice as many, but it's way cheaper to do this. Rubber bands, coffee filters, plastic bags. I'll show you how I put these together. Okay, I use a measuring cup. I'm not sure if it's half or a quarter. I'm pretty sure it might even be 2/3. I don't know. I would say it's a quarter cup. Yeah, I'm not editing, so you're gonna watch me make all of them. And you don't have to be too anal on the mix. You're not going to screw it up. It's as long as you get all the ingredients in here, you can change it around and see what works best for you. And this is what I found. This works best for me. This is the way I do it. Okay. After you got your media in your cups, you want to take some water. I'm using about that much water, so I'm going to put about that much vinegar in it. Distilled white vinegar. So if you're making a small batch, just a couple tablespoons of vinegar. Your measurements don't have to be perfect. So if you want to see how much was in it before, I'm not editing it. I'm not going down. I'm too fucking lazy. So you saw what it was before. That's what it is now. Now, whatever measuring cup you use to put the media in, you put twice as much water in. So each one gets 2. Pretty simple. I've seen other people making media cultures, putting beer in it and all kinds of weird shit. You can use brewer's yeast instead of the instant powdered milk, but I don't like it personally. It produces better for me, but it smells worse. And I have a lot of cultures. My frog room, I like to be able to fucking breathe in it. This can get a little sour smelling after a while if you have an older culture and it's wet, but it's not nearly as bad as smelling like a dead animal. Okay, where is... Now's the part where you mix it, but I don't have anything to fucking mix it with. There's some. Okay. Now, it's going to seem like you don't have enough powder in here, okay? But it will thicken up. Oh, shit, I am going to have to edit. This has to sit for 5 minutes. Oh. After these sit and thicken up for a while, I'll just go ahead and make them. Should be good enough. The only thing is, if you put your flies in and your media is too wet, you'll kill them all. It's starting to go a little faster here. And if you think it's too wet, don't be afraid of screwing it up. Like, if you think it's too wet, I'm just doing this to get it to thicken up a little faster so I can add flies. You know, sitting here watching it thicken up. You can just add more. Add more water. Add more potato flakes. It's not a science. It's really simple. Okay, now, I see a lot of people that are making their own cultures. They put a coffee filter in here now. I tried that years ago, and I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. The reason being, it sucks up a lot of the moisture out of the culture, and that it usually tends to mold. So what I found works best is I just rip up a plastic shopping bag. And you can get Excelsior too. Excelsior's really cheap. This works. It's cheap. It's free. Don't have little bits of Excelsior falling into your flies and trying to pick it out and it climbing up your arm. And I mean, super simple. You don't have to cut it. You can just rip a bag, put pieces in, just get it in there. I usually pushing it down to the bottom with the fork. Keeps it that way when you're shaking it, nothing falls out. Okay, and then after that, you get your flies ready. Mine are already ready for the cultures I'm making here, but now if you're going to make them this way with the 16-ounce cups, figure to make twice as many, but it's still cost half of what it would be to use 32-ounce delis. Like once in a while I will when I'm running out of room. But until you buy these and then you get the special lids for them, you're into the container itself for 30-40 cents. You can go to Sam's Club and get 700 of these red cups, I think, for $6. They work good for tadpoles too. I'll use them for tadpoles too. Well, I used to. I don't anymore. I have a new tadpole setup. It's pretty nice. Then we just add our flies. Do them however you want to do them. I usually do them 3 at a time. Coffee filter and a rubber band, that's all you need. No special lids. I mean, everyone's making this more complicated and expensive than it needs to be. It's extremely cheap to keep dart frogs and it's simple. As long as you keep up on making your cultures. But you get the gist of it. And here so you don't have to watch me make the rest.